Hey, Bruce, you guys were your own worst enemy at times last year. You said that in order for you guys to become a good football team, the Bucs need to stop beating the Bucs. Would you categorize this as another instance of the Bucs beating the Bucs today?
I mean, there's no doubt. So that's what I said to start with, and it was my job to make that stop. I thought we had it fixed. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job of getting it fixed.
And then also, too, in order for you to beat the Saints, your defense has got to come up with more than one sack and take the ball away. You had 0 takeaways today on defense. Do you agree?
Yeah, we had a couple go right through our hands. I mean, he threw it to us 2 or 3 times, and we had a penalty on one where we should have had an interception, and another one goes right through Jamel's hands. So we just got to catch them when they throw them to us.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Back at you today for episode 128. Now, before I go any further, I would just like to remind everybody that there are 15 more football games on the schedule, and you don't win a Super Bowl in week 1. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me as always, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. Evan, how are you doing on this Monday, my friend?
Overreaction Mondays are back, and aren't they just great?
I mean, that's the surefire sign of Buccaneers football being back. You know, every year when the Bucs play bad football, I think it's kind of a running gag to see how soon people can start jumping ship. You know,
and some of the different reasons that they can come up with, because I mean, everyone's been played out by now. So.
I'd say like mid-October is the average threshold, but week 1, when you've got people just totally abandoning all hope, season is a wash.
Well, okay,
Fire Jason Light, like you know the drill. You've heard it before.
I mean, let's look over at Cleveland right now. Like their fans are a mess right now. Like, I think they might be worse than Bucs fans, because right now, I mean, they're saying fire Kevin Stefanski, who just coached his first football game, and trade Baker Mayfield after one game. So, I mean, man, that is just brutal. And I mean, those fans have been through it, but I mean, so have Bucs fans. And I understand when you have expectations and those expectations aren't met. Sometimes, you can overreact, but then, that's why we like to record on Mondays, because we don't want to sit there, Sunday, 15 minutes after the game ended and spout off nonsense. We want to take a minute, right? Listen to all the post-game quotes, then listen to, the coach's quotes today and really think about it. I've watched the game back a little bit. I have some more thoughts on it. But, I mean, yeah, week 1, for every fan base, I feel like, it can give you so much hope, but also it's just, like, demoralizing to a fan base. Because if they won, it would be, okay, this offense is unstoppable, and they're going 16-0. If they lost, and this is really for any team, I think, like, honestly, if they lost, it's, oh, my God, the sky is falling, this is going to be a disaster, this and that. I'm shocked you haven't seen, like, oh, fire Bruce Arians.
I've seen a few. Yeah. Believe it or not.
Wow.
But
those guys aren't intelligent then, because you don't, whatever.
They just watched their first Bucs game yesterday. But ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured it out by now, the Buccaneers did not win their game against the New Orleans Saints. The final score in that one, 34-23. So today on the show, we're going to be basically talking about what went wrong. There was a lot of bad. There's a lot of things that went wrong, but there was a lot of good about this football team. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of missed that mark. There's definitely some people who have seen the good that this team can produce, but the majority of people on social media just really, I don't know. I know the heat of the moment is one thing, but like you said, recording the next day gives us a clear head. So let's go over what happened in this game. To sum it up, good football teams don't beat themselves, and the Bucs beat themselves. But I'll tell you this. I don't think it's going to happen again this season. Maybe we see a sloppy penalty next week. Maybe we see something, maybe a stupid holding call by Donovan Smith. That was the only thing we missed yesterday. But I just don't think it happens to that degree again. And, when you have those undisciplined penalties, they add up pretty quickly. And in the case of the Buccaneers, you literally put 14 points on the board a little bit quicker than you would have liked to because of undisciplined penalties. You can't do that against a football team like New Orleans. Comparing penalties to the situation the Bucs have been in before where they've had to play from behind, it seems different, and I went into this week 1 game expecting the Bucs to be a little bit more disciplined than they were. Like, I know we talked on the pregame show. I know we did the season predictions and we talked about, week 1 football is going to be sloppy. Week 1 football is always sloppy. You don't have a preseason. You don't have OTAs. You get half of a training camp. I get it. But I look at the competition, and I look at what happened in the second quarter. Those undisciplined penalties started to add up. After a great first quarter, by the way. But those undisciplined penalties started to add up, and then I think what the nail in the coffin was, in the second quarter of the football game, the Saints won the mental battle. They found a way to get under the skin of a lot of guys on that Buccaneers roster, including Mike Evans, who just seemed so razzled by Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, it was day and night. It was really weird, but they won the mental game. There came a point where they were just messing with us. They were toying with the Bucs, and ultimately they fell for it. In turn, you fall behind, just too much for you to catch back up on. And that's what I got to say about that. Just undisciplined football is going to lose you football games, and I think that's what majority we saw on display last Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted this, but can we just stop with like the Mike Evans owns Marshawn Lattimore thing? Because I understand they bracketed coverage towards Evans and he was a little bit banged up, sure, but I mean, the dude, if he doesn't catch that touchdown, it's another game without a catch against this guy for him. Like, come on. Like, you can't sit there and go off of one play in 2018 when he beat him on a deep ball and say that this guy just owns him, because he doesn't, okay? Marshawn Lattimore has Mike Evans' number. The entire Saints team right now has the Buccaneers number.
And that's why they feel so confident talking the trash that they do. You saw
because
Cam
they
Jordan.
can. Because they know that if, their expectation right now is whenever they play the Bucs, they're going to win. They are going. It's going to be a different way. Maybe every time it'll be a different way. Sometimes it'll be a shootout. Sometimes it'll be a defensive battle. They're going to win the football game, and that's where this Buccaneers team needs to get to, where they expect to win the football game. And right now, yeah, I mean, Bruce Arians is 0-3 as Bucs head coach against the Saints. The Bucs have not beaten the Saints since that Week 1 game in 2018. That was the last time they beat the Saints. So they're 0-4 against them since then, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're 0-4 against them since then. And I mean, they still got one more battle with them here. So they just get so, I've never seen a team get under their skin, like you said, and just be able to, I mean, and the Saints do it to a lot of teams, I think, I think we can all admit the Saints talk way too much.
That's just, I think that's their brand. Sean Payton is a snarky asshole, and we saw that on full display against Tampa Bay. He always pulls something out of his bag.
The shame of it is I like Drew Brees, but I don't like anybody who's around him. Like,
yeah,
I don't
pretty
like
much.
I don't like Michael Thomas. I don't like Sean Payton. Alvin Kamara's okay. But I don't like Cam Jordan, like Demario Davis, like Marshawn Lattimore. I don't like any of those guys. And I don't know. I feel like the Bucs just don't have anybody that the Saints really hate, because they give you no reason to hate them because they aren't winning. Right. Like, that's what you always say with a rivalry. Okay, it's not a rivalry if the Saints win every game. That's not a rivalry. That's not what the definition of that is. If the Saints win every game, that's just a game that the Saints win, and that's domination. If they split every year and every game was chippy and stuff, that is a rivalry, right? Cowboys, Eagles, that's most of the time, if you look, There's not too many sweeps there. And the Saints have just had the Buccaneers number for far too long.
Yeah, it definitely is time for that to change. And I guess we just have to wait and see until the next time they play later on in the season. But as of right now, like it or not, the Saints, their players, their coaches, they can say whatever the hell they want because, Evan, just like you said, they have been on a roll against Tampa Bay. But I want to move on from stuff like that. I want to look at some stat lines. Tom Brady, we kind of have to talk about the quarterback. Really quickly, before we get into the stat line of Tom Brady, I just want to throw out some fun facts that maybe not everybody knew. On opening day in his NFL career, Mr. Tom Brady is 14-4 after yesterday's loss. The last 3 times he lost on opening day made it to the Super Bowl. Okay. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I'm going to leave it at that. Also, one more thing.
You're just saying, but you're not saying.
Well, one more thing that I'm just going to say before we get into these stat lines here. The Buccaneers also lost to New Orleans week 1 of that 2002 season. And if everybody seems to remember, I think they had a decent year.
Actually, they got swept by New Orleans in that year. So
let's get into.
I do want to say one thing, though. I know we're throwing a bunch of nuggets here, but this New Orleans team is very good, okay? And can we not, like, after every week compare what the Patriots did versus what the Bucs did? The Patriots just beat a Miami Dolphins team went 5-11 last year. It's a little bit different than losing to the New Orleans Saints who were 13-3. Like, just stop with that, please.
You know what? And something else that I think bears repeating. We brought it up when we did the the last episode, the pregame show. And I'm surprised we haven't said it yet, but chemistry as well. It's important to remember, we've talked about this the Saints team being a well-oiled machine, division title after the division title. You get it. They're a good football team, but they've been together a very long time. That core has been there. And week 1 football combined with a team still kind of figuring out their chemistry, you're just going to get results like you get. But let's get a little bit more into this game and what went wrong. But let me actually talk about some stat lines first, because I've said that like 4 times and not done it. So Tom Brady, Mr. Quarterback, number 12, 23 for 36 in passing, 239 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. Looks like a good stat line until you get to this part. 2 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6. What do you think of Tom Brady's day?
Rhett, if I wanted that performance, I would have just kept Jameis Winston. Listen, I don't think he was as bad as people are going to overreact to. But man, it's just you got Tom Brady. A main reason you got Tom Brady was the main reason you were going to make a quarterback change, whoever it was to limit turnovers.
Just
correct?
Secure the football.
I mean, that was like Jameis Winston could have done that. Jameis Winston could have had the same exact game.
Jameis Winston would have thrown for 439 yards, not 239. But I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
I mean, just man, I don't know. Like, I think he played okay. First one, if you look, Bruce Arians said it was on Mike Evans. Now after watching the tape, sort of stopped his route. Brady was expecting him to go up, even if he's going up. That's a tough catch. And then the second one, you can't throw that ball. I don't know why the out route is in the Bucs playbook. And actually, I saw somebody else. I forget which game I was watching. Somebody else got picked off on an out route, and I was like, why do teams even throw them then? Because you had the timing has to be so perfect on an out route, on a deep out route. I mean, Brady was throwing almost across the entire field, and it was just late. It was behind him. It was a bad ball. It was late. It was not a good play. That's 100% on Tom Brady. He knows better than that. I think he will adjust, but that's not what you wanted. That's not what you got this guy for.
And I think we need to make this clear as well before we go any further. A lot of people are going to listen to this who are just kind of, casual Bucs fans, and they're probably going to be upset that we're shit-talking Tom Brady, but we're going to look at Tom Brady with just as much of a critical lens as we are anybody else on this football team. It's how we've always done our show, and it's how we're going to continue to do our show. So Tom Brady had a bad day. It wasn't entirely his fault. Like, don't get me wrong. We're going to talk about
he made some good plays. He had some really good
Absolutely.
plays.
He made some promising plays. That first drive, that first quarter, I thought the Bucs
I mean,
were winning that game. As soon as they
that
came out,
ball-
scored a touchdown in the fashion that they did, that Brady rushing touchdown to kick off the TB12 era in Tampa Bay, I was hype as hell.
You tried to FaceTime me.
I know, I did try to FaceTime you, and then you're like, you could FaceTime me after the next touchdown, and then they didn't score any touchdowns.
The next one was when they were down 24-7. Oh, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Thanks. That's what I get for trying to FaceTime you and have a good conversation during a football game like friends do.
Maybe next time. Oh, we're friends. Maybe next time I'll answer, and that'll be a little bit better luck. Maybe.
Oh, man. Let's finish up these stat lines really quickly and talk about the rest of the game. Chris Godwin, your leading receiver for the day for Tampa Bay. 6 receptions for 79 yards, just missing a touchdown. Very solid performance from Chris Godwin. We talked about Mike Evans kind of being shut down, the absence of him. And the beauty of it is that you have Chris Godwin who can step up and play the way that he did. So very, very good day for Chris Godwin. You'd love to see it. Levante David on the defensive side of the ball. And I think you got to group these guys together. Levante David and Devin White both finished with 11 tackles each. I mean, they were all over the place.
Let me just throw in, David had a dominant second half.
Absolutely.
The first half, I was like, like he's kind of quiet. And then, like, during that second half, there was that drive where he was in on, like, 3 straight plays. I was like, oh, he's awake now. So, yeah, first half, he was a little and then the second half, he really turned it on.
Yeah, 11 tackles for Levante, 2 tackles for loss, and a 1 quarterback hit on Drew Brees. Only 1 sack from this Bucs defense, by the way. That came from Jason Pierre-Paul. Not good enough. You are correct.
But I mean, they didn't sack him at all last year, so that's progress.
It is what it is. Devin White, before we move on, I do need to say as well, his tackling, dude, he tackles insane. Like, he jumps in the air, swings on somebody with his arms. Like, it's all arms. You know what I mean? It's some of the craziest tackling I've ever seen, and it looks violent as hell every single time, but it's kind of cool.
He's gonna I just hope he doesn't get called with like a horse collar or face mask. That's the only thing. Like, when you're tackling with your arms like that and it's up high, like, because you're gonna, if you're tackling with your arms like that, you're gonna have to do it up high, because if you're trying to tackle with your arms down low, they're just gonna shed the tackle. So, like, on that one, was it Kamara where Devin White just like kind of threw him down? I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, did he grab the back of his jersey? I was like, no, okay, but yeah, I mean, he was phenomenal as well. Both guys were leaders of the defense. I think White had a pretty all-around game. Like I said, I thought David really showed up in the second half. So, I mean, those are 2 guys. I thought they were going to be blitzed a little bit more. But I think against Drew Brees, knowing that he was going to get out that quick, that the blitzes probably wouldn't do much anyway. But, yeah, overall, a solid day for those 2.
Yeah. We've got one more stat line here. And it's a guy who had... No? You don't want me to say it? You want me to save it?
Oh, I was excited. Go ahead.
Okay. This man probably had the best game of his NFL career. It is that man, Scooter. Scotty Miller. 5 receptions, 73 yards, and his longest play of the day, a 37-yard reception.
Which was beautifully thrown.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
I thought that thing was over his head, and I was like, oh, it's right in the bucket. So I was like, oh, a quarterback that can throw a deep ball, that's something.
You just alienated half of the people who can't get over it.
I don't care. And then, even like the ball to Godwin, which I was going to say earlier, that was a beauty as well. But yeah, I mean, Scotty Miller, just, you can see he has a big rapport with Brady already.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying, like, Julian Edelman, no. Like, I saw a tweet, I think Greg Allman, it was a tweet at Greg Allman or something. He said, like, all the Edelman tweets are, like, false. Like, Miller is much more like Deshaun Jackson than he is Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Miller is, he's more of a Deshaun Jackson guy than, the dude's not Julian Edelman.
He's just a straight-up vertical threat.
Yeah. And I think this dude can be... I think he's gonna be pretty good. Like, I mean, I'm surprised a lot of people haven't given Jason Light and Bruce Arians more credit, because this guy was a 6th-round pick. But I think by the end of the year, I mean, he's not gonna put up monster numbers. Like, he'll put up wide receiver 3 numbers on a team that has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and O.J. Howard and Rob Gronkowski and Cameron Brate, and I think a solid running game eventually. So, I mean, yeah, he's not going to have, like, 900 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns, but, like, a career year is definitely going to happen. He's already shown an impact. They had that screen. They had a few out routes, which were nice. The small out routes are good. It's the long ones that you just can't throw. And then, you hit him on the deep ball there. Then you hit him on the deep ball down the sideline when he almost caught the ball with one hand. And, you end up they end up getting flagged. And I think the Bucs ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. So, just overall really good showing from the Scooter man himself. So
now you said Scotty Miller, hard for him to find, constant productivity on an offense with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But I will say this, kind of the point that I made about Chris Godwin earlier, and I think plenty of people know this, but when you have that many talented wide receivers in your room like that, if you have Mike Evans clamped for the game, if you have Chris Godwin clamped for the game, neither of those guys show up. It's nice to see Scotty Miller have that report with Brady where he's throwing his way pretty often. Like, he threw to Scotty Miller more times than I really expected him to. When Godwin just kind of, I think it might have been after Godwin was off of the field, but there were some times where Godwin and, of course, Mike Evans having the game that he had where Brady was dumping it off to Scotty Miller and he was making some things happen. So a really big day for Scooter, and would love to see how he grows from this. So we're going to finish up with the bad of this game. And I think it is probably the biggest issue that this team has right now. The weakest link on this football team, in my opinion, and I'm sure many other people's opinion, is number 76, Donovan Smith at left tackle. Maybe you've heard of him, but pretty terrible day for Donovan Smith.
Say the least. I don't... So a lot of people have been coming at me and saying that I said that Donovan Smith was good, which never said that. I said he was average. I'm sticking with it. He is an average left tackle that had a very bad day.
At least you didn't say he was going to be a Pro Bowler.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm taking shots at the former quarterback, and you're taking shots at anybody else. So,
no shots, dude. I just bust balls.
So basically, yeah. Also, speaking of Winston, did you see the tweet that said Winston probably on that Microsoft service watching Peppa Pig or something? It was good. It was good. He's like, it was that one when they showed him, and he was looking at it, and they're like, he's probably watching Peppa Pig, and I thought it was so good. Oh, man. I love the guy though. Love James.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people might get it twisted. We had a guy on the last episode that was like, "You need to stop dragging Jameis, this and that." We love Jameis. Okay,
yeah, Jameis is awesome, dude.
Yeah, he went and played for the Saints. We're gonna treat it how it is, Yeah, he's a rival.
Nobody, I want that guy to succeed, but I want him to succeed in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't want to see him do it in black and
whatever. Gold. So back to the point, which I kind of forget now, but
Donovan Smith.
Yeah. So I say that he's average, and people take that as me saying that he played good. I don't understand that. I'm not saying that he played horrible, but at the end of the day, his overall looking at him in a 16-game season, I think he grades out as an average left tackle. He had an awful day on Sunday. Both can be true. It's okay.
Our buddy, good friend of the show, James Hill, a.k.a. Mr. Bucks Nation, did a film breakdown, and he posted the results of what he had seen. He was looking at Donovan Smith every single offensive snap, and he got beat hell of a lot of times, but he wasn't beat every single play. So I can agree with everything that you just said. It is a critical year for Donovan Smith. I have to imagine he doesn't want to take the field next Sunday and play the way that he just did. It's a bad day against a good football team, but let's move on from Donovan Smith. He has room to get better. He has the rest of the season to figure it out. If he gives up 5 sacks next week, knock on wood, then let's talk about it. But as of right now, he had a shitty day.
If he gives up back-to-back or 2 sacks or whatever, he'll be taken out of that game before the game's over.
I think next week he gives us another performance, even similar to what he put on the field against New Orleans, he will be benched. And what do you think, Joe Haig or Tristan Wirfs is your contingency plan left tackle?
I would guess Joe Haig, just because I thought Wirfs played a solid game.
I wanted to stay on the topic of the offensive line, by the way. Pretty good day for Tristan Wirfs. Cam Jordan didn't show up as much as anybody thought he would.
No, I thought Tristan was going to struggle. I really did. He had that one penalty where Jordan kind of got the best of him. But yeah, I thought he was going to struggle, and a solid day for him, but I just think it's too early. He's still getting his feet wet at right tackle. Let him stay there for now.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to put Joe Haig in, which isn't ideal either. Ideally, since left tackle is more important, Wirf would be able, maybe with a preseason, he would have been able to, but I don't think so. I think eventually, though, now this is after week 1, so I mean, you still got a whole season, but I think the plan is to move Wirf to the left and find a cheap option at right tackle. Just because right tackle is not as important, and you don't need like a great right tackle to succeed.
So that means you just don't have a super strong feeling about Donovan Smith being guaranteed money next year?
No, yeah. I mean, all of his money, they can save like $14 million by cutting him. And with their free agent class right now, which includes Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Levante David, Ndamukong Suh, Rob Gronkowski, those are like the big names. I mean, I'm not saying all of them are going to be back, but they're not going to need every dollar they have, especially with the salary cap not rising. So I think anybody that's on like the fringe of maybe making the roster is definitely going to be gone. So I think Donovan Smith, I think they can find a cheaper option to play. If you want to move Tristan Wirfs to the left and find a cheaper option in the second or third round of the draft, even, I think you'd be able to. So I think that's the route. Early week 1 overreaction. That's my overreaction right there.
Yeah.
Is that's the route that they're going to end up going. So
well, everybody's
we'll
entitled
see.
to their own.
He has 15 games to change people's opinions. I mean, if he comes out and is dominant, I don't think many people are going to be talking about New Orleans week 1.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Very true. Everybody's entitled to their own week 1 overreaction, and I'm glad that we got yours right here on the show. Now, at this point, I feel like we've pretty much covered everything that pissed us off about Sunday, so let's talk about some of the good stuff that we saw, because don't get it twisted, folks. There was a lot of good on display with this.
No, I can't excuse him for one thing.
What is it?
So, Rhett, let me ask you a question. If you're a football player and the other team's punting, do you think it's wise to run backwards and try and catch the ball? Is that a smart football decision?
Well, a direct quote from Bruce Arians, I thought they learned that shit in high school. But
well, they do. And apparently they didn't teach it to Mike Edwards. So that is inexcusable.
It wasn't a punt, by the way. What?
It was okay, kind of.
What was it? It was.
So what happened was that Emmanuel Sanders had scored a touchdown. And then there was a penalty, I think, for like a face mask or a horse collar on Sanders. I think it was like Davis or somebody had hit him like up high or something. Right. So they tacked the yards onto the kickoff. They tacked the yards onto the kickoff.
Understood.
So the Saints kicked it from the 50 instead of they put it up 15 yards. So that's what that was basically.
And in essence, the Saints just basically made the record for the longest onside kick of all time.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that cannot happen. I mean that is high school football. That is. I mean, you see, I know you got some flack for a tweet that you put out, and after a reflection, you admitted that you were wrong. But
I only watched it once. It was the heat of the moment. It happens. Okay, yeah. A lot of people are wrong on Twitter, believe it or not.
So Jaden Mickens is standing there, and he's been the returner the entire time.
Didn't return anything, by the way. Fair catched pretty much everything.
Well, dude, I don't understand what the Buccaneers coverage was doing. The Saints were down there, were beating them every single time.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were going for the block most of the time or what, but they weren't playing coverage. And then the one time he didn't fair catch it, he got blasted. So Jaden Mickens is there, or Jadon, sorry, whatever. We've had this conundrum before. And he's just standing there waiting for the ball, right? Mike Edwards comes, and he's like running like a wide receiver. This is a safety. He's running like a wide receiver to try and catch this ball. I think it hits Mike Edwards first. I don't know if it ever touches Mickens, but Edwards drops it, runs into Mickens, and that takes them both out, and then the Saints just recover it.
Yep, and slid right in there.
And you can see Mickens just kept his hands up like this, and Mike Edwards put his hands up kind of, but then quickly put him down because I think he sort of realized like what he did. That I'll tell you, man. That can never happen again.
Going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, Sunday was undisciplined football at its finest. It was put simple. It was Bucks beating Bucks.
I mean, just like you said, we talked before the show. I mean,
yeah,
on a 4th and 2, you can't jump off sides.
Yeah,
what is
tough
Vita
play
doing?
for Vita Vea there.
You cannot jump off side. You don't even know if the Saints were going to run a play. They could have been bluffing, and you. Oh man,
they got him on the snap count. They got him on the snap count all day long, and that's kind of what we had talked about.
I know Drew Brees is good at it. Like, he's one of the best.
But they
credit, but still, you have to be prepared for that. You got to know on 4th and 2, the last thing you should be doing, move late if you have to.
Yeah,
like don't try to time it perfectly. Like, you cannot do that.
Just watch the ball. Like, I guess it's high school football, but I remember when I was playing high school football, that was rule number 1 of playing defensive line. Eyes on the football. You don't move till the football moves. And I feel like a lot of these guys in the NFL should know that. Granted the excuses of no preparation, no preseason, da-da-da-da-da. We've been through it all. Like, I get it. But it's just stupid stuff that cannot happen again. And going back to what was said at the beginning of the show, no, I don't think it happens again. Here comes week 2. But let's talk about some good stuff that had happened, okay? How about this defense, man? I mean, this defense came ready to play. A couple of costly penalties that we already went over. One really bad pass interference that set the Saints up in scoring position. That'll happen every single time. But aside from that, Carlton Davis matched up against Michael Thomas, the slant king. He held Michael Thomas to 3 catches for 17 yards, the second lowest amount of his entire career. The development that we've seen from Carlton Davis is more than I thought we would. And I have to say that this young secondary, as a whole, I was much more worried about them headed into this game than I should have been, apparently. Antoine Winfield did a hell of a job, too. He had, what was he out there for 100% of the defensive snaps? He looked like he belonged there at the safety position.
Yeah, I think he was out there for a good bit, made a few nice plays. He had his hands on a ball. Brees made a questionable decision. By the way, Drew Brees was not very good. I just want to point that out. That Drew Brees was missing guys all over the place. If I look back, I think Tom Brady had a better day. I'm just saying. The difference, here's the reason they lost this football game before we move fully into the positives. Two reasons why they lost this football game. One, I don't think has been talked about enough. One is the obvious one, the turnover battle. You lose the turnover battle 3-0. That, you're not going to win much if you would lose it 3-0. 2 interceptions by our quarterback, that can't happen. And then the inexcusable fumble. And you were just never. You got close to a pick a few times. Like I was going to say, Winfield got his hands on one. It was a tough play.
Yeah, Jamel Dean, by the way.
The fingertips, man.
I thought he had
literally. It. I thought he did too. And if he was probably an inch or two back farther, he would have had it. And the Bucs were up 7-0 at that point, and they had the ball back. That's a different game.
That's momentum all the way right there.
Yeah, so that is one thing. So you lose the turnover battle. And then 2, they lost the field position battle too many times. And it seemed like it was doing the same thing. Like you said, Jaden Mickens would fair catch it at the 10. The Bucs would gain about 5 yards, and then punt. The Saints would start at their, at the 40. Like, they'd get to the 50, stall, have to punt. We'd do it all over again. And you're not going to win a lot of football games. Even the Bucs' opening drive, the first drive, started at like the 13 or 14-yard line. Like, it wasn't like they had to drive a lot. And
it was. I think that first drive was 83 or 86 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that is just when you're putting yourself in bad field position every single time, you're not going to win a ton. And I do want to say one more thing. The Bucs' golden chance to win this game, or not really win it, but take full control. So they're up 7-0, and the defense gets a stop. The Bucs go 3-0. That can't happen.
Yeah.
You know, you want to put them away, not really put them away, but put some points on the board. Put a field goal on the board. Go up 2 scores.
And it seemed like every single drive where we looked at the offense and we're like, all right, Tommy, let's go. Let's get some points on the board. Let's get back in this game, or even just, hang on to where we're at, stay contesting in the game. And it just really didn't happen. There were too many critical drives that flamed out.
Happened. Yeah, but I mean, that's basically all the doom and gloom from me. Secondary, Davis, I thought was excellent. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I thought was really good in run support.
Absolutely.
He was okay in actual coverage, but run support, I thought he was very good, especially early on. Jamel Dean, he wasn't targeted a ton, which is a good sign for a defensive back. Because as a defensive back, if you're just being picked on like that Seattle game last year with him, that's obviously clearly not a good day, and you didn't really hear his name a lot. Defensive backs and offensive linemen are two where if you don't really notice that they're playing, that's a good thing. And Dean just made one mistake where Arian said that there was supposed to be safety help there. It was cover 2, supposed to be safety help, and the safety, I don't know, it might have been Andrew Adams, I heard, was there, and he just wasn't there for the help, so Dean's sort of fading off. And let Jared Cook get that big play, and that was the Saints' biggest play of the day, biggest play for anybody. So, and I think once they hit that, I think everybody knew there was like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but I think everybody pretty much knew the writing was on the wall for how this game was going to end once they hit that. But overall, the secondary, they're good, man. They are good. This defense, I think, is good. I mean, this is a good Saints offense that's been playing a while, and I know Breeze wasn't at his best. I know that it's the first game of the year. I understand that. Those are valid points. Same points that we're using for Brady in the offense, right? So you got to use them for this.
So when you talk about the Buccaneer defense, you have to talk about last year's number 1 ranked run defense. And as of week 1, they picked up right where they left off. Okay, let's
did
talk
a good
about
job
this.
Against Kamara. Latavius Murray got a few runs on him, but
he did
a decent job against Kamara. I mean, they really shut him down. I mean, besides obviously allowed a touchdown, but whatever. It was like a 7-yard touchdown.
It was his longest run of the day was 6 yards, but total for Alvin Kamara,
I think that was the touchdown too.
16 yards on 12 carries. That's not 3 touchdowns, granted, but 16 yards on 12 carries. When you're talking strictly run defense, they did a good job. And I'll tell you, somebody else that I've seen talking about this, I agree with 110%. Pretty sure it's our buddy Chris Fisher. Will Golston needs to be on the field more.
Yep, it was Chris, and another great take.
I mean,
I'm not sure. I think Nacho was on the field then when he wasn't, because I think Sue and Vea played most of the snaps in the interior defensive line. So the other one I think was Nacho and Golston really splitting those reps.
Well, I'll tell you what, a case for Will Golston to maybe come in and split a rotation with Ndamukong Suh instead of a guy like Rakeem Nunez-Roches. No offense to Nacho. He's a great player, great rotational guy. But Will Golston against the run defense, man, he just thrives in this Todd Bowles defense. He always finds a way to just get a hole or just get in the backfield. He just has a nose for it. He's really, really good from the interior of that line. And I'm excited to see what Will Golston can do. I'd just like him to have more time on the field,
Yeah, I think he's one of the more underrated players on this football team. I think he's been a force at run defense for a long time. It sucks that he never really was able to rush the passer as much. He's just never really been a factor. I think he had 5 sacks in his contract year or something.
Yeah.
Ended up getting paid probably a little bit more than you'd like just for a guy that is just going to stop the run pretty much. But also Vita Vea, the Ndamukong Suh, they need more from those guys. Pass rush, a lot of times the Bucs drop back 3. Drop back everybody and send 3. And Vita, they were collapsing the pocket, but they just weren't. You got to get there. And they need more out of him. This is going to be a big year for him because he made, I think, big strides last year. This year is more important. This year, he needs to be a guy that can get – he's never going to get 10 sacks, but he needs to be a guy that can consistently get 4, 5, 6 sacks a year. And right now, he's just – and a few more pressures, if that. And right now, he's just not showing that. The Ndamukong Suh, well, you all know my thoughts on him, and that I didn't think he should be back. I think he's just there to eat space. But it's Vita Vea. They need more from him, and they need a better showing against Carolina. They need a better showing throughout the year from him. I hate to be negative again, but I thought, against the run, he was fine. But, I mean, against the pass, you can't really do a whole lot. And, I mean, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, they played okay. Shaq Barrett was in coverage a few times. I think they realized that they weren't going to be able to get the breeze with just a simple 4-man rush. So they sent Barrett to cover Kamara sometimes, and that worked. Worked well.
I'll tell you what makes my heart hurt sometimes is seeing a guy like Jason Pierre-Paul drop back in coverage. Oh, no.
What, do you think he's athletic, but...
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know. So you got any more positives here?
I wanted to actually kind of flip things over and talk about the offense. We kind of dragged on the offense, and I think the narrative has been the bad day that they had, the lack of consistency from, 400 or 500 total yards over the air last year per game.
Brett, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Is O.J. Howard back? Is he the best tight end on this team?
Oh, baby, O.J. Howard is back, ladies and gentlemen. I think that touchdown was a lot of people. I don't know. I don't think either of us.
I would have caught that touchdown, but
Yes, O.J. Howard is definitely back. But let's talk about the offense. Let's talk about some of the good things that we saw on the offense. And let's start it with the run game. It wasn't, an explosive day by any means, but I like the commitment to the run game. I feel like there was never a point where I was like, why is Leonard Fournette on the field? There was one play where I was like, why the hell was LaShawn McCoy on the field for that play? Because he didn't do anything but freeze and look at 3 defenders before he was smothered. But I think the commitment to the run game is going to pay off. And once the passing just works, once the chemistry is there, you can approach with a much more balanced offense. I think it opens things up. Just commit to the run. I like to see it. Even if you're losing, just run the football. Just do it. And we saw some good flashes from Ronald Jones. We saw a couple of plays that he had where he was pretty athletic. Didn't break for anything huge, but he had a couple where he really could have gone.
I think his longest was 21 yards, I think.
Yeah.
It was right before the OJ touchdown. Because the OJ touchdown was the next play.
So what did you think of this run game? And was there anything else on this offense that you think we can hang our hat on? Anything else you really liked on the offense?
Well, I mean, the run game I thought was okay. At first, I thought they were running it too much. I mean, I know you want to ease sort of Tom Brady in, but I mean, what do you have, like 10 pass attempts at halftime?
Right.
You need more than that. I think they got a little too run happy, and also the runs in the first half. Why are you running right at the middle on first down constantly? Do something different. Jones is quick. McCoy is quick. Fournette's quick. I mean, you barely saw LaShawn McCoy in that first half. You saw him a little bit more in the second half when they were passing a little bit more. But
yeah.
Then, I mean, Fournette you barely saw. He had one decent run where he cut it outside. I think you'll see a little bit more of him each and every week just because I still think, even though they said he's a role, I think he's still getting acclimated to the team and the system and stuff. I mean, he's been here a week, so gonna give him a pass. I thought Jones ran hard. I thought he ran good. I thought he looked good. The only thing he didn't really get was the touchdown, but I mean, that's okay. I liked what I saw. I'm encouraged. I'd like to see a little bit more, but I thought it was decent. They do. I think they need to get more creative with their runs. So basically, I mean, the offense. Chris Godwin had a sneaky day to me because we were talking before the show, and I was like, man, I didn't realize he had 80 yards basically. I was like, geez, I didn't realize that, and I hope he's okay. DJ Swearinger hit him high in the head, so we'll see if he shows up on the injury report this week. Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I said, Brady was okay. Evans was horrible. He drew 2 PIs, which was good, I guess. Miller was good. Gronkowski, man, if you're paying him $9 million to be a blocker, why didn't you just sign another offensive lineman? I don't. They got to open it up more. I don't think Gronkowski is in the greatest shape right now. I think as the season goes on, he will be. But man, you got to give him a chance more. He only had 3 targets. Come on.
Right.
And I mean, I know they were only in the red zone really twice. But I know, well, maybe, okay, 3 times, I guess. But that last one, I mean, but Brait, had 12 snaps or something. Might have been less than that. I I mean, Brate's another guy I think is definitely going to be gone anyway. But, like, man, Gronkowski, like, they need more from him. And, I mean, O.J. Howard was clearly the best tight end on the field. He's their best tight end. Rob Gronkowski is not. You could argue that Rob Gronkowski is their third best tight end right now until he shows you otherwise. He looked kind of lost at the end of his career in New England there. Then he retired, came back healthy. I believe he's healthy. I don't think he wouldn't have come back if he wasn't healthy and he felt like he could do this. But I think it's clear that like those injuries after all them years are really getting to him, I think. And that might be a little overreaction, but hopefully Gronk can be a factor. I'd like to get the tight ends involved a little bit more anyway, no matter who it is. But other than that, I thought Ryan Jensen played good. Props to Ryan Jensen for sticking up when Cameron Jordan decided to punch somebody.
Oh, hell
and the
yeah.
refs just completely missed it. So props to him for sticking up for his teammates there. Thought Ali Marpet was okay. I thought Alex Kappa was all right. I mean, really, if they had better left tackle play, they might win this game. Still, the special teams was pretty bad, though. Had a blocked kick, which was on Kappa, and worse, actually. I mean, I hate – one last point I'm going to make here is I'm going to make two more points. This is one. I hate when people say when they count blocked kicks for kickers as like a miss.
Right.
How's
like,
that a
that wasn't
miss?
on Suckup. You know what I mean?
How is that a miss? How do you know if he was going to make that or not?
By the way,
history
Suckup,
shows
Suckup,
he probably wouldn't, but
I was thinking the entire time, every single time he made a kick, I was going back to the point that you had said, just make your kicks. And Ryan Suckup did just that. Let's not forget that, folks.
Yep. Yeah, he did. I mean, it was in a dome. It'll be interesting to see what he does outside in Ray J next week.
Oh,
but
God forbid Tampa. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. And then next week he has Denver with that weird there. So, but actually, normally people can kick farther there. So, so basically, I hate blaming blocked kicks on kickers. It was a complete blown assignment by Wirfs and Kappa, and a dude just went in, whatever. And the other thing, I wanted to ask you this question. This is my last thing here. Do you think... Now, it's the tough thing because they couldn't have cut Donovan Smith this offseason without eating money. If they could have, then this is an easy answer. What would you have rather had? What you have now, right, which is Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs, or the Bucs move Donovan Smith to right tackle, trade for Trent Williams, and draft Javon Kinlaw?
I would rather have what we have now. And the only reason I say this is because I've had the conversation with somebody before about moving Donovan Smith to right tackle, and the consensus
I know he doesn't want to do it. I know that he doesn't want to do it. But...
Exactly. The consensus is if that, they were going to try and move him to right tackle, he'd ask for a trade. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want to do it. He's made his money on the left side of the line. That's what that big-ass contract is for. So,
well, okay, then I'd be perfectly fine moving him for a 7th-round pick, basically eating the money and drafting Wirfs at 13. Because then you could add Williams at left tackle and Wirfs at right tackle.
Kinlaw would be awesome. I think it would be great. But when you've got Donovan Smith playing like he plays, you move him to another side of the line, and then you get aging Marcus Peters. I know he's Marcus Peters. I know he's still Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters? What are you talking about?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Marcus Peters is the corner.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think you're thinking sort of Jason Peters, and
yes.
I don't know where Marcus came from, but
you get it. But
it's all good. The Bucs just like this podcast, the Bucs have mental errors. So
it happens, dude. It happens. A lot of names are similar. They get caught up in my mind. I think of one guy in one uniform, and it's not even that guy. It happens. But with the situation and where we are now, Donovan Smith playing the way that he is, putting somebody else at left tackle, not having youth at that position feels weird to me. Like, I like that we went and we got a rookie right tackle because you can work on the guy. You can mold him. And based off of week 1 against Cameron Jordan, an elite pass rusher, he held his own pretty good. So I feel good about what he can bring to the table. And I like that it's planning for the future. So I say we stick with what we've got now.
Yeah, basically, I think it's how you view, like how bad you really think Donovan Smith is.
Right.
Because if you think Donovan Smith is going to play like this every single game, then I think you have no choice but to go back. If you could go back in time and make that trade, you do. But if you believe that Donovan Smith is going to bounce back and actually be average, like, because that was not an average tackle last night.
Oh, it was garbage.
That was a horrible bottom 5 left tackle in the NFL. I think it all depends on how you view. Just a fun thing I want to think about. We're not going to bring it up again, really. But I know that a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, because there was that report that like the Bucs were, one of the teams interested in trading for Trent Williams, and they were, if they didn't land a tackle in the first round, they were going to try to trade for him." And I just thought that was fun. So
yeah. So the question then becomes, where do we go from here? Bucs are 0-1. It was a pretty terrible game against New Orleans. You had some highlights, but what do you do? We got 15 games to kind of build on it. And I think that's what we're excited to see. I'm excited to see this team build on what they do well. And I think if they can just fix, not even, complete 180, if they can just kind of fix and patch up most of the problems they had, don't shoot yourself in the foot with flags every single week. Left tackle needs to step it up a little bit. I'd like to see some better run lanes be opened up by the offensive line while we're on the topic. But we just need to see this team build off of what they put on the field. I still feel good about Brady. It's still the move. I don't think anybody except for, I don't even want to say
his arm strength isn't dead, folks.
I still feel good about this football team. And I think the overreaction factor is what a lot of people are focused on right now. Absolutely.
This doesn't change my opinion of their senior season at all. Go back and look at that record prediction show. I had them losing this football game.
Yeah,
you had them
winning.
winning. 1-2. Yeah, I had them starting 1-2. I had them beating the Panthers and losing to the Broncos. Now, I mean, and then I still haven't finished on 11-5. So, like, if they drop to Carolina, that's going to change my opinion a lot, because that's a game good teams don't lose that game. Even average teams shouldn't probably lose that game. But yeah, I mean, you had them winning, but at the end of the day, we still have them with the same record. So, like, I don't really think it doesn't change my opinion. It's not, because it's just like you said, it was a lot of self-inflicted things. If they came out and just crapped the bed, Tom Brady looked awful, and the offensive line, everybody was getting beat, not just Donovan Smith. And they didn't even have dumb penalties or anything, or dumb special teams plays. Murphy Bunting and Carlton Davis, the Saints offense ran all over them all day. Then I'd be concerned. I'd be like, oh boy, like, there's a lot more work to be done here. Maybe this is more of an 8-8 football team than 11-5 one, but they looked fine. It was, besides, one or two plays on offense from Brady, the Donovan Smith, and then a few flags here and there, and just one bonehead special teams fly.
Call it what you will. Say what you want about this statement. Call it bold. But what that game was, it was a week 1 football game, given the circumstances, between two of the better teams in the NFL. Like, it was two of the better teams in the NFL. One of them was undisciplined, and that's what lost the football game. Without those self-inflicted wounds, it's a much closer game, and maybe, just maybe, we're talking about a win here today on the show. But as of right now, Bucs are 0-1, so we just have to wait and see what they can do to build on it. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to us on any of our podcast outlets or checking us out with video on YouTube. Make sure you follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. It's pretty much the best place to be to get any updates on the show or any Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of social media, make sure you follow myself at Rhettakus, Rhettakus. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. If you follow me, I promise I'll follow you back. And make sure you follow my co-host, Mr. Evan Wanish, on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram is at Bucs Daily. Coming up on 25,000 followers. Did you hit it yet or no? We're still creeping.
No, we're making some headway, though. Last time I checked, it was 24.7. So.
Oh, we're getting there. It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen before probably the half point of the season if this team is able to turn it around, which I still believe that they can. You can also find Mr. Evan on Twitter at EvanNFL, where he talks about Philly sports, the Buccaneers, and Rocky movies, right? Bunch of
stuff. Pretty much. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty basic description of it. Yeah, so
not like I just ripped it from your bio or anything. Process trusted over there on Evan's
Twitter. Of course. I talk about football pirates and, all that stuff. I mean, you already ripped that from my bio and put it in yours, basically. So
I just like the term football pirates. I think it's hilarious, dude. So, ladies and gents, before we go, one last thing. We will talk to you on Thursday. This episode and then the game preview episode that we did last week officially kicks off our official schedule for the season. So what it's going to look like is every Monday there's a new episode of Cannon Fire Podcast. If they play a Monday night game, obviously we'll do it on Tuesday. And if they play a Thursday night game, obviously we'll do it on Friday. But every single week, you can expect episodes on Monday. You can expect a new Bucks break to be out every single Tuesday. That is where I join Mr. Johnny B and Will Kuntz over on 102.5 The Bone. We take some phone calls and we yell about the Bucks in a little bit more of a, toilet humor fashion. And then Thursday, we've got our game preview show. So look forward to that. 3 shows coming out, and maybe we'll have some special treats for our friends over on YouTube. But make sure you get excited because we still have a great year of Buccaneer football and Cannon Fire podcast ahead of us. I am Rhett Matthew, signing off for my man Evan Wanish. Thank you guys for listening to our show. We'll see you on Thursday. Go Bucks.